Certainly one way to handle it is to
it's efficient.
It is efficient. No discussion is efficient with respect to time. All right. What's up, everybody? Corey Singletary here with the Citizens Utility Board with another episode of CUB Tracks. And alongside me, as always.
Hello, Tom Content with Citizens Utility Board with CUB Tracks. Yeah.
You know, I think that's always the case. That
what?
You're always with CUB. You and I both.
Last time I checked.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here. It would be some other
like,
suckers having to do this show. Today, I think today is going to be a kind of a news rundown day because a lot of stuff happened at the commission yesterday that we had either talked about before or teased before that folks might have an interest in an update. So we were going to kind of run down those. So circling back. But maybe
they packed a lot into one day.
They did pack a lot into one day, and as you had noted to me when the agenda came out, they packed a lot into one day for Commissioner Strand's arguably first real agenda in terms of a lot of decision points.
Yeah. They'd done some stuff the week prior, but this was a lot of substantive stuff for one day, 2 weeks in.
It was quite a bit. So let's see. I don't know. Let's maybe we can start a little bit out of order in terms of how the commission took things. Maybe we can start with Koshkonong. Koshkonong is a big solar and battery electric storage project that I think it's We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service Corporation and as well as MG&E had proposed to acquire for their generation portfolios to meet their needs to serve their customers going forward. And the commission took action on that yesterday.
That's right. So a 2-0 vote with Commissioner Huebner abstaining or recusing, abstaining. So that gets moved forward. There's still siting issues involved with that one. It's in litigation on the siting issue, but that one can move forward from the PSC's point of view.
Yeah, we had filed comments on that one. Really just kind of echoing our previous concerns about some of the economic analysis, particularly on the We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service side. I think we had talked about it this morning. It was a little more clear that Koshkonong was part of MG&E's least cost path forward, whereas for We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service, not quite as clear.
Not quite as clear, and not in every. Not that the whole thing was gonna be in the money for the whole time, and continuing questions about the modeling involving the entire generation portfolio plan that they developed.
Mm-hmm. So the commission did approve that, as we were sort of alluding to off the top. The commission approved that without discussion yesterday. They did, however, accept all of commission staff's suggested order conditions that they put in the staff memo. Staff put out a memo analyzing the project, and the commission accepted all of staff's conditions, which in our comments, it was basically what we said is, if you're going to approve this, at least accept all of staff's conditions.
Right, and some customer protection ones in there that you highlighted in the comments.
Yeah, the big one is that at a minimum, the utilities should be required to tell the commission as soon as they know that the project is going to cost more than they thought it was when they came in for approval. I think the way I likened it earlier is they shouldn't get 10% of runway above their limit before they tell mom and dad that they've overspent the credit card.
There you Well said. That's a good point. And this is big ticket item, so it's a lot of credit card payments.
So that one is moving forward, and like you said, there is still some litigation, but at least insofar as those three utilities getting permission, getting approval to purchase that solar and battery electric storage facility, that one clears the hurdle for those utilities. A big one, which admittedly there wasn't a lot of actual action, but I think folks, particularly in the Milwaukee, southeast Wisconsin, eastern Wisconsin part of the state, will have an interest in, is that the commission opened an investigation for We Energies and Wisconsin Gas. Both of those sort of operate under We Energies broadly. An investigation into low-income assistance programs, including a potential percentage of income payment pilot. This was something that the commission indicated that it would be doing coming out of the We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service rate cases last year. So we finally saw that come up, and they opened that investigation. So what do you think about that?
We're in. We're excited. We're glad to see this moving forward. It's something that was a priority for CUB last year in the rate case. It's still a priority. We want to see what can really happen to help the customers that are really struggling the most.
Mm-hmm. So, as a reminder for folks, in the rate case for We Energies and Wisconsin Gas, we had reached a settlement with the utilities that included an agreement that the utility would work with us and other interested stakeholders. We assume groups like Walnut Way would have an interest in developing, low-income affordability rates to really help those customers for whom really utility bills are kind of unaffordable and hard to manage, regardless of how much we try to keep the overall utility rates down.
Right, and these programs are already in place in other states, and it's good to see what we talked about on the last podcast. Good to see Excel's program moving forward. It's good to see that we're opening the door to more of that.
Yep. So the notice, I believe, actually went out late yesterday or this morning. So groups that are interested, by the time this comes out on Tuesday when we normally put this out, there'll be about another week and a half left of time to intervene. So if there are any interested parties, again, in the We Energies and Wisconsin Gas service territory area, if that's your utility and you have an interest in this investigation, I would recommend looking into, and you're really interested and you actually want to roll up the sleeves, get in there, and participate, look into intervening on behalf of your organization before that deadline runs out. The docket for that one is 5 UI 121, and we always advocate for greater customer participation and involvement before the commission, so that we get better decisions out on the other end.
The more input the PSC gets, the better for everybody.
Mm-hmm. That is true. So then we kind of get into the fun, meaty stuff that the commission did yesterday. They took up 2 big cases involving some rate programs. And I guess we can. You want to start with We Energies, or do you want to start
Flip
with
a
NSP? Let's start with a win. Let's start with We Energies.
We can go there.
Yeah, We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service. We had mentioned it on the last show. Actually, I'd put odds at 2 weeks from the time that our last podcast came out when they would take it up. It was less than a week. And so the proposal by We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service to expand the Solar Now sort of rooftop solar siting leasing program that We Energies has, expand it for We Energies and expand it out to Wisconsin Public Service, to put in place a new renewable pathways pilot program, as well as downsize their dedicated renewable energy rider. And the first 2 I mentioned, the Solar Now and the Renewable Pathways, were the ones that really the commission spent the most time opining on. And starting with Solar Now, I mean, we asked the commission to take a particular action, and they did it.
They denied the program. They denied the expansion for We Energies and denied it being extended for Wisconsin Public Service customers. So It's a really good statement that this program was not what they were looking to see, and it was. I'm really pleased with that.
And to be clear and to reiterate, from what we had mentioned last time, is we have nothing against renewable energy programs, customer-focused renewable energy programs that aim to meet customers' particular needs for as it relates to renewable energy. But this one, Solar Now, comes with a significant infrastructure investment price tag for all customers, and we didn't think that the utility had shown their work well enough to justify the economics of the program.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, as it turned out.
Yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars for the customers of both utilities over the life of the program. Tens of millions of dollars of upfront capital investment, and we feel like there's a bar that needs to be cleared there for evidence, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah, there were extensive concerns raised by the chair, Chair Vach, and Commissioner Huebner on, about whether these programs, unduly expand the role of the monopoly into the competitive side of the energy business, which there is already much. People have a lot of choices when it comes to adding solar these days.
Mm-hmm. So that one. For us, again, for sort of economics for customers, making certain that the customer's money is well spent, that from our perspective, that was a win. Certainly if the utility comes back with more information, a better application that really shows us, hey, this is a great deal for customers, maybe in that situation, we might be comfortable supporting the program. But as it sat today, at least, or as of yesterday, that information just simply wasn't there. So moving to the Renewable Pathways program, this was an interesting one with the commission decision. They essentially punted. They
basically said, let's take a timeout and get more information. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think they recognized that this didn't really come with additional costs per se for all utility customers. But they wanted to make certain that the program was designed in a way that made sense. There were concerns about attribution for renewable attributes, who that goes to, just sort of program design. So less about economics and more about making certain that the on-the-ground experience for the customer is what the customer is expecting, and that it serves those customers' needs well.
Right, and if this program, which is is generally thought of as a green pricing program, one of the questions is, if it is a green pricing program, why are you doing this when you already have a green pricing program? Mm-hmm. In the case of We Energy's Energy for Tomorrow, and that was the point Chair Vach made was what if are you gonna pick one or the other, or it's if they already have Energy for Tomorrow, which allows you to pay a premium to make sure you're a portion that 100% up to 100% of your electricity to serve you is renewable. Why this extra new pilot?
Yeah, that's something we've actually raised a couple of times in past comments and in past cases. Is the utilities have certain programs and products already on the books, and when they bring in something new. We raised this in the point of an EV program. Actually, I think it was for a municipal utility, but they wanted to come up. That utility wanted to come up with a new rate for EVs. It was a time of use rate, and we asked the question: well, what's wrong with your existing time of use rate? Can you at least show us why the existing rate doesn't do what it needs to do for these particular customers? And that's basically the question the commission asked here. We didn't have a problem with the renewable pathways, at least from an economic standpoint. So we were fine with it. But some other stakeholders raised a lot of the concerns that the commission sort of identified and latched onto in their decision to punt it down the road.
So vote solar, mm-hmm. renew. So the utility is going to be asked to respond to the concerns raised by the other groups, as well as the questions that will be directed to the utility by the commission.
Mm-hmm. So that was excuse me. So that was an interesting one in that again, from our perspective, it was sort of a good outcome all around. The solar now, the denial of that just because of the insufficient evidence, and that and we're fine with the commission taking a little more time on the Renewable Pathways program, so to make certain that really when it goes into effect that it does what it needs to do, and sometimes taking more time is the right path.
Oh, definitely.
So then moving on to the other one, which I think we had talked about a couple of shows ago, but Xcel Energy was in with a request to modify a few of their EV-related programs, residential programs as well as commercial programs. Take out, remove some options that weren't really working for customers, that didn't get much uptake or seemed overly burdensome or complicated for customers. In particular, they had an option where if you wanted to put an electric vehicle charger for residential customers, you could, and commercial, there was a prepay option. There was a prepay option which customers didn't really didn't really take advantage of that. It wasn't particularly attractive. Most customers went the route where you essentially pay for the charger over time through your rates. So they got rid of that, and they proposed to get rid of that and put in place sort of a bring your own charger device.
BYOC.
Yeah, BYOC. There is still a list of approved chargers in order to work within the program.
Right.
But if you wanted to, instead of buying it from the utility, you could buy it from some other supplier. And the commission approved those. Excel also proposed a new multifamily program, and that was something that we were supportive of. We felt that was something that was meeting a need that hasn't been served well thus far in Wisconsin.
Right, because so much of the focus has been on single family homes or workplaces to date, and so Excel saw a niche that wasn't being served and decided to fill that with this. And we'll see if that's. I'm not sure where that goes from here, because the commission. That's another issue where the commission wants more information to move forward. They had some questions about whether that was going to be the right move.
Yep. So they held that one over. That was another kind of punt. And again, there's nothing wrong with getting more information, getting more data, and oftentimes that's what we're asking for, right? When we file testimony
Exactly.
or comments, is we're not saying no, but we would like you to maybe make sure.
Yeah. So often that's been a stance of ours is we don't think this application deserves to be approved today because we don't think the evidence is there, but we have an open mind that maybe the evidence can be provided. So they're kind of allowing more time to get more information is something that maybe, I don't know if this week's vote was a precedent, but it would be good to see that in other cases too.
Well, this is stepping back a little bit, and maybe feels a little inside baseball, but I think it's worth mentioning. One of my personal sort of laments over the many years is that it's felt like, as a matter of tradition with this commission, that it kind of likes to touch a docket once. It likes to have something come before it. It gathers whatever evidence there is, and then it makes a final decision then and there based off of that record evidence, up or down, and very rarely did what they did yesterday, which is to punt and say, you know what, we're going to hold this open. And we need the utility to provide more information before we can make a decision. And I think that's the better way to go, right? There's no reason. Sometimes there's a time crunch, but it's often better to, at least in my opinion, to take the time to make certain you have all the information you need to make that decision, up or down, sideways, modifications, whatever the case might be. So I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, I think that's totally a really good point. What I think about is, when they come into that meeting that day on a Thursday morning at 10:30, do they have every single question about an issue in their mind fully resolved 100%? And I think about the process that is in place in another state, Minnesota. Again, a little bit inside baseball, but at the Minnesota Commission, before they make a decision, they actually will have an evidentiary hearing, where the commissioners themselves can ask attorneys and subject matter experts who provided testimony questions, so that they can clarify points that they didn't think were fully raised through all the documents, through all the testimony, and really get those questions answered. And that's a process that I think might work well here. It might be a total departure, but it's an interesting way they do it over there. That I think, by the time they're deciding, the Minnesota commissioners have gotten at least all their questions answered, and that's just a way. The that's the process they do to take more time to make the decision.
Well, and I think it's, being willing to, hold things out and, like gather additional evidence is consistent with what most people think of when they hear that the commission is holding a meeting, right? That they are meeting to discuss and take action on issues.
Right.
Because most people may not know this, but the law prohibits the commissioners from talking to each other.
Yeah, we should explain that.
Yeah, so the commissioners, they all review all the evidence, the documents, everything separately. They can't talk to each other except in the open meetings because of the open meetings law. The law makes it so that it's essentially a sunshine law to make certain that if the commissioners are deliberating, they're talking with each other, discussing substantive points that affect the work that they're doing, that it's done in an open setting so everyone can see how the sausage is made and the rationale that the commissioners are using. But so often what has happened in the past is you have three commissioners walk in the room. They've made their decisions. They've made up their mind. They've got their talking points. They got their check boxes up and down across all the decision points they need to make. And there really isn't any discussion of the record per se. It's more just everyone gives little speeches about what their positions are.
Right. It's more of a here's my take, here's my take, here's my take instead of give and take.
Yeah. And I felt like there was the beginnings of a little bit more of a back and forth between the commissioners in the open meeting yesterday. And at least, again, from my perspective, I applaud that, and I would love to see more of that, where maybe commissioners can persuade each other based off of their read of the evidence, and there can be more of a debate and a discussion about the record when they have these meetings.
I think that would be great to see.
So. That was, so those were the three things that Excel explicitly asked for approval of for the commission to take up in that application. But there was one other piece that we talked about before, which was that the utility asked for feedback on a proposal for Excel to own and operate public electric vehicle charging stations. So imagine, right now you can go to a Quick Trip and buy gasoline in under Excel's proposal, their sort of vision for vehicle electrification in their area is that you would be able to pull your EV up to an Excel electric vehicle charging station and charge your vehicle while you're out on the road. And so that was something that they had asked for feedback on, and we provided a lot of different comments on that.
Yeah, and I think the comments that CUB provided kind of set the stage for a bunch of issues that the whole country is going to be dealing with, but it wasn't as if CUB took a position because we were just framing up what this debate is. Mm-hmm. It's where does the monopoly end, and what is the role of electric utilities that provide electricity as a service in the world of electric charging.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I can't emphasize it enough. When we filed our comments, when we put our comments together, it was more from the standpoint of, and we were honest about it. It's like, this proposal has prompted a lot of sort of internal debate for us because if you were to lean in the direction of saying, maybe this proposal has merit, that maybe this is something that should be approved, that represents a deviation from how we have historically looked at this. But, some of the questions, we said we can see this going both ways. And, as a result, the commission, Excel, all the stakeholders are going to have to grapple with these very sort of fundamental, foundational utility regulation questions. Like, one big one for me is, in the here and now and looking forward in 2023, looking out at how many new EVs are coming out, looking at the governor's goals for EVs, his vision for electric vehicles in Wisconsin, as well as various corporate goals. Excel has a corporate goal to help electrify transportation in its area, and given that we're looking at a future with a lot more electric vehicles and people needing to charge electric vehicles, is public vehicle charging part of a monopoly utility's obligation to serve? Are they obligated to serve that in the same way they are obligated to serve residential or business customers within their service territory? How do you define an electric utility customer in a world where essentially the electric load moves around, right? It's not just a building, it's a vehicle that can plug in at various places within the utility service territory. So we posed a lot of different questions there, and I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on this issue. I mean, certainly, again, we're not trying to pass judgment now, but there's just a lot to think about on this one.
No, there's a lot to think about, because you think about the four people. People think about their energy bill today, their utility bill today, they're not thinking about the money that they spend at BP or Mobil or Quick Trip for gasoline. And when in an EV world, you're spending it all through the electric bill, right? But a lot of studies have shown that overall cost, if you combine all those, will be lower, because the energy equivalent or the electricity equivalent of a gallon of gas is closer to $1 than it is to $3.49 or whatever I paid yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one just on dollars and cents issue that's going to be part of the conversation. But how much is EV charging a public good, and how much is a question, and how much would it help to have the economies of scale in order to enable more EVs to get plugged in, or to enable more accessible charging to be available in more places. Mm-hmm. Because right now we have range anxiety concerns once you get away from certain parts of the state.
Yeah. It is really a different way to look at it. And certainly from a household budget standpoint, people think about, how much they pay for gas.
Right.
But, when you think about your utility bill, you're right. Transportation doesn't factor into that. And certainly if you buy an EV, your electricity bill is going to go up, but then you're not buying gasoline anymore.
Exactly.
And your point about efficiency is I think something that is often not appreciated, by people who are thinking about EVs. People are thinking about EVs for a variety of reasons. It's like maybe cleaner or quieter, or things like that. Some folks think about it in terms of cost effectiveness of efficiency. In the interest of transparency, my wife and I, we placed an order for a Ford Lightning, which is supposed to be built sometime, I think, early May. But as an example, as the electrified version of the most popular vehicle in America for the last, I don't know, however many years, that truck has a 131 kilowatt hour battery, and if I assume like a 14 cents per kilowatt hour rate for electricity, to top off that vehicle to give it its 300-mile range is like $18, as opposed to anyone who's owned a truck knows that that's more like an $80 to $100 tank top off, all right, to fill the tank. It's a little different, but the amount of energy you're carrying around in terms of efficiency for transportation, right? You're getting 300 miles out of a charge on, say, a Lightning, but you're only carrying around the equivalent of about 4 gallons of gasoline. Right. So that's how far you can go on so little energy. But it does raise these questions about, what's the public interest? How is the public interest best served? And we had, it may seem like we're leaning a particular way, but we put in our comments. I did a little, one of those Google searches where you autocomplete and you got the list of all the suggestions of what people have been looking for. And I went on YouTube, because influencers and people who have opinions on these types of cutting edge things, and I just typed in "Electrify America Charger," and I forget how many of the top suggestions were something along the lines of charger broken, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
And while he's counting, I'm just going to interrupt and say, to do that calculation like you did on the F-150, anybody can go to fueleconomy.gov. They have a cool calculator on there. If you're evaluating an EV vehicle, it'll compare the obviously there's the sticker price, but if you're looking at the full price over time, it'll give you what the and the fuel cost savings would be over 5 years on there. Fueleconomy.gov.
Yeah. So out of the suggested search terms, on at least on YouTube, looking at all the videos, people talking about charging stations, about half of them were something related to charging station down, charging station stuck, charging station not working in the cold, charging station unavailable. And so one of the questions we raise, again, getting to this sort of first order fundamentals, is would it be better if this service were subject to the same type of regulation that utilities are subject to right now in terms of reliability, in terms of price control, in terms of customer protections and customer service? Would it be better or would it be worse? And again, that's something that we're going to have to grapple with. And so the utility asked for feedback. So we gave our feedback. We said, hey, here's a giant pile of questions that someone needs to answer before we can move into the actual program design. But the commission, and they had asked for feedback from the commission, but the commission, commission elected to remain quiet on that for the time being.
They took a pass.
They took a kind of a hard pass. I think the closest we got to feedback was Commissioner Huebner indicated that he felt that CUB, that we, and as well as the other stakeholders who provided comments, did provide some thoughtful comments, and that he suggested that the utility read them
and take those into account before filing any official application for this. But yeah, they didn't want to step out of the lane of we're going to be asked to decide this in a future case, and so they decided not to provide feedback because they didn't want to prejudge anything.
Mm-hmm. Which is fair. The commission is often referred to as a quasi-judicial organization, so there is sort of a judge-like role to the commission, but there is also at least from our perspective, there is a policy-making function and part of the job for commissioners. Some commissioners disagree. Some commissioners don't feel like they make policy. But we believe that implicit in what they do, there is a policy-making aspect. And so we were kind of hoping that we might get a little preview into what they were thinking, but,
Or just, here's 3 rules of thumb, or here's,
Yeah,
but
we were hoping that sometimes there's a lot of reading the tea leaves in this business where everybody, us, the utilities, that's always like you kind of hang on the words of the commissioners to try to see what they might be thinking, and they were holding the cards tight yesterday.
Yep. So they're waiting for the big applications.
Yep. And that one, well, for folks who are interested in that one, that application, that the final plan and proposal will come in Xcel Energy's rate case filing, which we expect to be on or around the 1st of May, somewhere late spring, early summer. And so if you have an interest in electric vehicle charging, at least in northwest Wisconsin, be on the lookout for that. So I think that's the big stuff. There were some smaller little items, some things that we weren't particularly involved in, some administrative stuff. But I think we tied up a lot of loose ends yesterday with the commission. A lot of cases that we've talked about that have been open, that we've been waiting for a decision, and we finally, we have a decision in a lot of it. Like you said, they punted on a couple things, so some things will come back.
Some things will be coming back, but that was a big day, actually.
Yeah, a lot of work. And kudos to Commissioner Strand for soldiering through that after on her second meeting, and I think only about her 2 weeks on the job.
She started on the 2nd. She had to make all these decisions on the 16th. So,
tough row to hoe. We've talked
Good for
about
her.
Before. Yeah, absolutely. Hats off for the perseverance in the face of that particular learning curve.
Yeah, baptism by fire.
There's fire all the time. But any closing thoughts? Anything you want to plug?
The only thing, I just got a notification. So CUB had joined this national coalition that's seeking more funding for the energy assistance programs for Congress, and that got filed today sent to Congress today. So hoping that more energy assistance dollars can be made available from the feds for customers that are struggling. So late breaking thing that just popped into my email while we were here. So
exciting.
There you
that's
go.
Very exciting.
Good stuff.
More money for folks who need
it.
help.
Definitely need it.
Is always a good thing. But with that, I think we'll wrap it up until the next time. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank everyone, and we'll catch you all in the next one.